All right, Jack Jameson. So thank you, first of all. You are a powerhouse in this industry, and I've only known you for a bit. I don't know what magic happened to connect us, but thank God it did. I feel lucky. You're making an impact on people already in these organizations. But I want to talk about you. So
Okay.
nobody rolls out of bed at 5 years old and goes, "I'm going to be an insurance guy."
Right.
What happened? How the hell did you get in this business?
Well, I grew up. I can't think. I'm not sorry to put this, but I grew up pretty poor, white trash, backwoods of Louisiana. My dad died in prison for murder. I have a brother in prison for triple homicide. Have another brother that died in prison, and so that's the way I grew up. I was on welfare my whole life and all that, and I was headed down the same path. Decided I woke up one day and had that moment of realization that I'm either going to end up in dead or in prison. Have 7 male cousins that didn't make their 21st birthdays.
Oh my gosh!
So I had a moment. And that moment was, this family's a vicious cycle. It's been going on for generations. It's got to stop somewhere. It's going to stop with me. 30 minutes later, 2 people knocked on my door and just said, "Can we come in and give you a message about God?" And I said, "Yeah, but not real loud because I'm really hungover." Because I'd woke up on the bathroom floor that morning. And anyway, long story short, they gave me a message, changed my life. That got me to Wyoming from Louisiana. Said I wouldn't marry a Yankee girl. If she couldn't make grits and fried squirrel, forget it.
Have you had fried squirrel?
Oh, man, I grew up. My mom said, "Eat anything that doesn't eat you first." So I've had possum, armadillo, squirrel. My mom would make gumbo out of anything.
Do you have a favorite?
I like soft-shell turtle gumbo. Wow. Yeah. One day the family cat disappeared, and and my mom wouldn't tell us what meat was in the gumbo that night. So I don't know whatever happened there, but she would never admit to it. But anyway, ended up in Wyoming. Met my beautiful wife, and she said, "There's no way in heck I'm moving to Louisiana. You got to move to Wyoming." So I packed up everything that I own, and everything that I owned you could fit in an apple box, and I threw it in back of my Datsun 280ZX, and I headed to Wyoming. And I remember it was in February, and I hit the Colorado border, and it was a blizzard all the way to Casper. My little Datsun 280ZX, not a good snow car, was all over the highway. And I just remember praying, "Please, Lord, let her be worth it. Please let her be worth it. Please let her be worth it." Well, 35 years later, 5 kids and 6 grandkids, man, has she been worth it. Right?
Well done.
Right, and she puts up with me. So anyway, we started having babies, and I flunked out of college, and so I didn't have a lot of skills. So I did a lot of crappy jobs over the years. I was a garbage man. For a while, I was a garbage man during the day and a dishwasher at night. I sold water beds for a while. For you young people that are hearing this.
I had a waterbed.
Yeah,
that's where
that's a
you
bed
fill
with
it up.
water in it.
Yeah, right.
A lot of us were probably conceived on a waterbed at our age. But anyway, sold water beds for a while. The last job I had was Frito-Lay, and I was a chip guy. And I went to work at 3 every morning, worked till 7 at night, 6 days a week, had no life, making $30,000 a year. My wife was a stay-at-home mom. And I remember I had a lot of time to think. And I told my wife, all I've ever had is a job. I need to find a career. What can I do? She goes, "Well, all I know is we need to find a job that you can talk a lot." She says, "Because you'll talk to a fence post an hour and a half before you realize it's not talking back, right?" So that Sunday, there was an ad in the paper to become a farmer's insurance agent. Send your resume to. And my wife goes, "Insurance? You could do insurance." And I said, "Well, I don't know anything about insurance." She goes, "Yeah, but our agent Doug with Prudential, all he does is talk a lot and we hand him a check. How hard can that be, right?" So I thought, what the hell?
That's a good fit, sounds like.
Good fit. So I sent in my resume. To be honest with you, I thought nobody would call me. It had waterbed salesman, garbage man, dishwasher. Sure. But about a week later, a farmer's district manager called me. He said, "Young man, I got your resume." And I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "I must say, I've been doing this 40 years. It's probably the most pathetic resume I've ever seen." And I go, "Thank you." I wasn't sure what to say about that. But he says, "If you're willing to work the jobs you've worked for the pay that you're made, your resume tells me one thing. You have work ethic." And see, I can teach insurance. I can't teach work ethic. Second thing I can't teach is personality. So I want to call you in for an interview, see if you got the personality for this. He says, "I see that you're married. Bring your beautiful wife. She needs to hear about this opportunity." We went in there that day, and he told me about the money we can make and the trips we could take and the lifestyle change. And we listened to that for about an hour. And we left, and we got to the car, and my wife turns to me and says, "If half the crap that man fed us came true, I'd be happy." So, hey, buddy, we were in it for half the crap. That's all we wanted, half the crap, right? But I decided to give it a shot. And ironically, I started taking my life insurance test first, flunked it 3 times, then became the head of agent life development for Farmers Insurance. It's only a test, right? So every time I failed the test, I told my wife, "I'm too stupid to do this. I'm going to stay where I'm at." But she wouldn't let me. So I got through all the tests, and Farmers handed me a book of business. It was called a phone book.
Yeah.
And they said, "Figure it out." And we had $300 in the bank, 5 kids, and I started from scratch. So there was no time for a learning curve. So I took to it like a fish to water, and just got after it. So that's how I got in insurance.
I mean,
Just
that's
answering an ad in the paper.
It's downright miraculous to
Right.
hear that. I mean, where you came from to where you are. There's just a ton of stuff I want to unpack. I wish we had several hours to do it. People are going to hear that and go, well, then I can't be Jack Jameson, because it truly was a miracle how these things lined up. You had the right people around you. You got the right visit from the right folks when
Right.
you were down and out. You married the right person, clearly.
big time.
That kept you to it. Someone that wants to be like Jack, what's the first step they have to take if they don't see I don't see the miracle in my life, but I want to get to financial freedom. The bar for this business is criminally low, right? You just have to pass a test, which you eventually did.
Yeah, I did, eventually did.
Yeah. So anybody could get into it, but what if they're going to stick with it? If they're going to be successful, if they're going to follow in your shoes, what's the first step? What do you do?
Dude, there's two things you need to be successful in this business, and I figured it out pretty fast. Work hard, right? Because nothing replaces a work ethic, and care about people. If you work hard, good things are going to come, and if you sincerely care about people, you're going to write a lot of life insurance. You're going to help them retire. You're going to help them with long-term, care and all those things. And it's funny, I started with two other farmers agents, and we all started at the same time. And we were all in the district office. Man, I would show up at that office at 6 in the morning. Hell, I was used to going to work at 3 in the morning. I was sleeping in at 6, right? I'd get everything ready so I could start cold calling as soon as 8 o'clock started. Those guys rolled in about 10 or 10:30, right? I never took a lunch. I kept protein bars in my desk because you could come in and talk to me about your insurance on your lunch hour. Those guys took a 2-hour lunch. If I got home before 9 o'clock at night, my wife asked me what was wrong. Those guys left at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I didn't work some Saturdays. I worked every Saturday. Those guys are like, we didn't get in the business to work Saturdays. Hell, I used to on Saturdays. I would knock on, because I was selling personal lines and life insurance. I would knock on apartment building doors, selling renter's insurance door to door. Didn't make a lot of money, but it kept me busy, kept me positive. And guess what? A lot of those renters people that I wrote later on became homeowners, because we all started off renting. Some of them became business owners. Hell, I wrote a renter's policy on a guy that he was in medical school, so it's all he could do is rent this farm. Became a doctor. I ended up writing a $12,000 a month VUL on him. But he started off, all I wrote him was a renter's policy that I made $10 on.
You're just laying the foundation.
Just lay the foundation, man. You just got to work hard. You got to care about people. You got to get up and you got to shot. Everybody, when I go to speak, they want me to show them a secret handshake. They want me
There's
to
no red pill.
No, they want me to write a formula on the board.
Yeah.
If I could come up with a secret handshake, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to
That's
your
right.
ass.
Yeah.
I'd be a millionaire right now,
That's
right?
right.
So, that type of deal. But you just got to get through the test, find somebody that gives you a shot, and go for it, man.
Be authentic and grind. And it's a grind. It truly
is
is.
a grind.
It's not. You don't have to grind anymore. Clearly, your accolades in this business tell me you're financially free, and you don't have to continue to grind. So, what is it now? What keeps you on the level that you're at? It can't be money anymore, right?
What? Well, money's always there, but I've been poor, and it's fun not to be poor anymore. But
It's easier to be not poor.
Yeah, that too. But I've paid out 10, 12 death claims over the years, and I saw what it did to the people left behind. I paid out one of my own family member. I see people that are retiring now because of something I helped them do 20 years ago, right? And they're retiring comfortably. I see people that I sold a long-term care policy to 15 years ago that are now needing it, and it's saving them from losing everything. So now what keeps me going is generally helping people, because I figure on Judgment Day, God's not going to ask us how much insurance I sold. He is going to ask me how many people I helped. And if insurance is the way of me helping people, and that's the tool he uses, because God works in mysterious ways, then so be it, my friend. So now it's about, so I started my own brokerage. All 5 of my kids work in it.
Oh, wow.
So that really drives me every day. When they were growing up, I would never want to be insurance. As you said earlier, nobody says they want to be an insurance agent when they grow up. But then they started seeing the lifestyle afforded us and that kind of stuff. They're like, this ain't a bad thing. And they're all very outgoing like me. They have my outgoingness with their mama's brains, so they're a pretty deadly combination. So now, watching my kids succeed, watching them be excited about it, to be blessed enough to be in business with my kids, which is a good thing and bad thing
Sure.
some days, depending on the day. But that type of deal. So that's what gets me up every day,
Wow.
man, just helping people. Being sitting here talking to you, getting invited to talk to a thing like at this,
Yeah, it's it sounds altruistic, but I wish I could tell my 20-year-old self that that's the end game. You know, when I got into it, it was for money, right? I need to pay the bills.
That's what I got into it for.
Yeah. But I think I would have accelerated my career by tenfold if I'd have had that mindset that you have today. But you can't. Can you teach that? Can you tell someone that's 25 that wants to work with you what you know now and get them to implement it, or is that just learned with experience and time?
Man, you know how it is. You know, it's like as you get older, you become the guy that had to walk to school uphill both ways in a foot of snow, 20 miles, right? And so, oh, yeah, that's back in the day and all that type of deal. I try to do that. But, you know, sometimes, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, it's just life experience, man. It's just life experience. You know, you got to have those days. As you know, you have the highest highs and the lowest lows in sales. There's days that everything I touch turns to gold, and there's things that everything that I touch turns to crap. And you got to be able to take those crappy days and say, hey, tomorrow's a new day, shake it off, and just get after it.
Is there something that you can point to that says this was a successful day? Is there a routine that you have? Is it something you don't do, or something you do that by the time you lay down, you go, that I accomplished it. This is what I needed to do.
My idea of a successful day is either writing a policy or setting an appointment to write a policy. In fact, one of the reasons I succeeded so early, look, I didn't have time for a learning curve. I either sold something we didn't eat. When I would get up every morning, excuse me, and I'd look at my 5 kids sleeping and my beautiful wife sleeping, and I thought, either I sell something today or we don't eat. That's some pretty damn good motivation, right? And that's what drove me back in the beginning. So I made a goal to myself personally that I will never, ever leave this office. I don't care if it takes me to midnight until either I've sold a policy or I've set an appointment to write a policy. And just by living by that really kicks you in the butt, because you get tired of eating your dinner out of the microwave at midnight every night, right? Yeah. And so it made me pick up the phone more. It made me go out and knock on doors more. It made me talk to more people, because damn it, I'm not going home till I sell a policy today or set a very good appointment to write one. Right, and you gotta have that kind of discipline. And
that has stood the test of time, right?
Oh,
I mean, you're saying to this day.
To this day,
wow.
Those 2 other guys that I started, that I live by a saying: don't trade what you want most for what you want now. Don't trade what you want. Well, those guys traded what they wanted most for, and for what they wanted now. Neither one of those guys are in the business anymore. One's working at a dairy farm in Wisconsin, and the other one's a cook at a restaurant, right? We all got given the same opportunity at the same time. In fact,
you might say they might have had a better opportunity.
Well, they were born and raised in Casper, Wyoming, where my agency was. I wasn't even from there. I'd only lived there 3 or 4 years, right? So they even had a bigger advantage than me, but they just didn't want to put in the time and the work, man. And there's no shortcuts in this business. I wish there were. There's not. There's not.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any regrets? I mean, that's kind of a tough question in that what you did and what you didn't do got you here.
All right.
But is there anything you would do differently in that career path?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that I achieved what I wanted to achieve, and I tell you what, man, and I'll tell any new agent, find you a support system. If you don't have a spouse or significant other, a brother, sister, somebody that when you go home when you've been beat up all day, that can say it's going to be okay. Because, sorry, I get choked up and talk about my family. I couldn't have done this without my wife.
Yeah.
Dude, I quit 7 times the first year, right? And my wife's like, no.
She kept kicking you back out the door.
Dude,
get on the street and let's do it.
My first paycheck for the month with 5 kids, mortgage, and no money in the bank was $302. I'll never forget that amount, $302. And I remember going home and sitting down with my wife and saying, because I got paid once a month, and I said, honey, I got my first paycheck. And she says, what was it? I said, $302. She goes, well, that's not bad for your first week. Oops. I said, honey, that's not for a week, that's for a month. And although she said another negative to me that day, I saw actual fear in her eyes. I saw fear. And I vowed to myself I would never, ever see that look on her face again. So I started going in earlier, staying later, knocking on more doors, picking up the phone, talking to more people. So there's 2 paychecks I'll never forget. First one was the $302. The second one was 3 years later, when my check for the month was over $30,000. And my wife says, you just made more in a month than it used to take you a year to make working 12 hours a day. Good. We just held each other and cried. And we felt guilty, well, for about this long. Yeah. And then we planned a nice vacation to Disney World with the kids and that type of deal. But I'm now living a life that I thought I would never get to live with the way I grew up. right? And I'm now living. So I've been beyond blessed, my friend. And also, it's hard to fly like an eagle when you're surrounded by turkeys.
Yeah.
So I don't surround myself with turkeys, man. I surround myself with eagles, with positive people. I don't have time for negativity in my life. So unfortunately, I've had to cut a lot of my family out of my life because it's just negative. Because when you change your life, but the people around you don't, they just want to drag you back down to their level. So get you a support system, surround yourself with eagles, and get after it, man.
And you, I mean, after a very successful career with Farmers, now you're going through a transition.
Yes.
So that's fairly unique, and I think a lot of people are going to hear this and be in that same position because I think Farmers, Prudential, Northwestern, you name the company, do a really good job of bringing people up in the business.
Right.
And then there's something about that. The people that are successful have that spirit of I can let my wings go a little bit.
Right.
How has that been for you? What caused you to get there? First of all, what made that decision for you?
Well, thank goodness for Farmers. I mean, I wouldn't be here talking to you if it wasn't for them.
Yeah.
Somebody took a shot on me 20-something years ago, and I'll always be thankful for them. I became a top agent, Life Agent of the Year, every accolade you can get. After 11 years, I was flying around the country talking about life insurance, training, teaching agents. So Farmers New World Life came to me and said, hey, why don't you sell your agency, come to work for us as the head of agent life development and train. So I did that for 3 years. Got tired of being on the road, decided to become a district manager. Did that for 7 years. So we call it Farmers Family, and there was nobody more Farmers Family than me, man. I wore the Farmers underwear, bump, the whole deal, right? I just decided that I wanted to go back to being an agent, right? I wanted to go back to sitting across the kitchen table with folks, and I was going to buy a farmer's agency. But the captive world right now, hey, the insurance industry is hard all the way around, P&C wise, especially tough with captives, right? So I just decided, you know what? Instead of staying captive, why don't I start my own brokerage? We sit down and talk to my kids about it, and they said, yeah, let's go for it. My oldest daughter was my top agent. My other daughter was my head trainer. My other two sons were producers, and my other daughter did some administrative stuff. And then my wife's fully licensed. And it was tough, dude, to leave Farmers because, how do I put this without sounding arrogant? My wife says there's a fine line between arrogance and confidence, and she says I'm always riding that line. But I was a Farmers effing legend, my friend.
Yeah.
Everybody in Farmers knows who Jack
Knows your
Jameson
name.
is. So to leave that was tough. It was very tough. And we started from scratch. We didn't buy a book. We started P&C from scratch. And I said, look, kids, I'm not really into P&C. It bores the hell out of me. If you guys want to handle the P&C, I will handle the life and the financial side of it. And they said, let's go for it. So we started from scratch. Dude, you know how many mornings I woke up or middle of the night, I woke up in a cold sweat going, what have I done? I was making damn good money as a Farmers District Manager. And now I just started from scratch. There's been a lot of scary moments. And we just did this last September. So just in the last month or two, have I woken up with no regrets? Where it's like, I can't change that anymore. I left. I made that decision. It's just all plowing forward now.
It's almost like you bask in the unknown.
Yeah, yeah.
That's unique.
I sort of feel like I conquered the farmer's world, and I get bored very easily.
Yes.
Right? So now
What are you
I
gonna
need
reach
a new
for?
challenge. I need a new challenge.
Yes.
To me, this was a new challenge. And then I've got to meet people by doing this I wouldn't have met otherwise, right? And I always figure nothing's a coincidence. I'm sitting here today for a reason. You're sitting here today for a reason.
agree.
So this opened up a whole new world. And fortunately, God's always 2 steps ahead of us, right? And that type of deal. But yeah, it was
So
tough.
you know you're
leaving
on the
that.
path that you
It
need
was
to be
tough
on.
leaving that security of Farmers.
Oh, 100%.
It was tough leaving that security.
But you had done it before. You didn't have the security in the first place when you went to Farmers, right?
My wife said when you started from scratch before, we had $300 in the bank. We got a couple of more dollars in the bank than that now. So yes,
We're
although
gonna
it's
be
scary,
okay.
financially, we're not going to the grocery store now with a calculator, right? So yeah,
You've earned it.
yeah, yep.
If this was the last thing that your wife and 5 kids heard you say, what would you say?
I love you, and I'm proud of you. Yep. That's
Awesome.
it. Yep.
You're real.
Thanks, man.
Dude, I love you. I'm so happy to be here with you. You're gonna crush it in this world. I've lived in this world for 22 years in this independent space,
All right.
and you got it. You got it.
Thanks for having me, man. I sure
Cheers,
appreciate
brother.
it. Thanks.
Let's do it again.
All right. Bye-bye.
Acrylic Financial Incorporated is a registered investment advisor, and the opinions expressed by those on this show are their own and do not reflect the opinions of Acrylic Financial. All statements and opinions expressed are based upon information considered reliable, although it should not be relied upon as such. Any statements or opinions are subject to change without notice. Information presented is for educational purposes only and does not intend to make an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Information expressed does not take into account your specific situation or objectives and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for any individual. Listeners are encouraged to seek advice from a qualified tax, legal, or investment advisor to determine whether any information presented may be suitable for their specific situation. Past performance is not indicative of future performance, and some guests may have been paid a fee to be interviewed for this show.